About 2 weeks into the school year, I was sitting in the cafeteria when a father standing next to me, looking at me for what felt like an awkward amount of time, finally asked me, you're a teacher here? And I responded, yes, despite the fact that for what felt like the millionth time, I had been undermined as a professional educator. And I already knew what his follow-up question would be. How old even are you? And I responded, I'm 23. But then, surprising myself, I added, and I'm a pretty good teacher at that. Surprisingly, this is not the first encounter I've had with people undermining my abilities as a teacher based on my appearance. Rewind a whole year, I was standing in the hallway with the school psychologist, and a former faculty member came up to us, and before walking away, she turned to me and asked if I had enjoyed my stay with my grandmother, believing that I was the school psychologist's granddaughter. And I just simply said to her, I'm actually a third grade teacher here. And she said, oh, you look so young. And then I'm still reminded of the fact that I'm by far the youngest teacher in my school, even this year. On my way to the copy room the other day, an upper academy teacher was talking to a first grade colleague of mine, and she turned to me in the middle of her conversation, raising the intonation of her voice, said, hey, hon, how are you? And I'm constantly reminded of my young age. But these experiences don't really surprise me. I believe it or not, have often been pegged as my younger sister's twin sister. She, by the way, for what it's worth, is 4 years younger and an undergrad in college still. But my parents shouldn't hold any importance on how effective I am as a teacher. If I have the skill, I have the will, and I have the growth mindset, it shouldn't matter that I can still pass as an 8th grader at my school. But I realized in thinking about these conversations and how much they really frustrate me, I put that aside and realized what these people have done to me, I have done to my very own students. When I receive Johns Hopkins assignments, I think to myself, are they kidding me? My students are 6. What do they expect? But if I'm not even giving my students a chance, how would I even know if they're capable of accomplishing the assignment? Recently, I found a letter that I wrote to myself 2 years ago as I was about to graduate from college. And I know at the top it says, to be read post TFA, June 2017. I'm sorry, I read it a few months early, but I wanted to share with you one portion of it. I wrote to myself, you are hoping you will enjoy whatever grade you are placed in for elementary school. You also would very much like to be placed in 2nd or 4th grade. These grades are just old enough to teach slightly more complicated skills, but are not too old that the students are sassy. Of course, as life unfolds, I was placed in 3rd grade last year and 1st grade this year. And I know that I didn't say this in the letter, but I know that what I was thinking is 1st graders will be too young for me. I mean, they're still going to need help going to the bathroom and tying their shoes. When am I going to be able to teach them? And I know I was thinking the same thing last April when my dean came to me and said, you're going to be teaching 1st grade. I thought, oh my goodness, my students are going to be 6 years old. They are going to be so young. At the end of the school year last year, I got out a little bit early and I was able to visit my aunt in New York. She's a 1st grade teacher there. And I was hoping that this experience would help me be more excited about teaching these young students. So I went there and I was blown away. When her students entered the classroom, these tiny humans were so independent. They had this morning routine down pat. They walked in, they put their backpacks away, turned in their homework, and did the attendance and what have you. And I thought I could have this kind of classroom if I prepared over the summer. And that's what I did. I went in with a vision and unfolded. But I still am embarrassed to admit that I questioned my students' abilities. Every assignment I got from Johns Hopkins, I thought, but my students are 6. The rigor of assignments, increasing rigor in our classrooms, I would turn to my friends, my roommates, and say, I'm supposed to increase the rigor in my classroom. My students are having trouble with sight words. For the advocacy assignment, making sure my students are aware of injustices in the world, I thought, okay, but how are they supposed to be advocates when we're still struggling in the classroom. 3, for habits and mindsets, teaching them about managing impulsivity. Could they even say that word, let alone actually internalize it? I asked my father, I griped to him on the phone, what am I supposed to do? They're 6. But I have been blown away by my students this year. And when I gave them the chance, they exceeded my expectations and challenged me. So I hope through the rest of my talk, sharing with you experience in my classroom, I can help change perhaps your assumptions that young minds are really actually very, very capable. For rigor, my students now, they share these academic conversations with academic-filled language, and after teaching them how to restate the question, now they just say, restate, restate, restate. They remind each other, and I don't even have to. For advocacy, I simply sat my students on the carpet one day, and I said, what is a problem you want to change at Asian Studies Academy? And they blew me away with their answer. They said, we don't recycle at our school, and we need to. They were so concerned about this injustice in the world. And what did they do after I gave them the resources and the tools they needed? They taught 11 classes. They, within 2 weeks, collected 170 pounds of recycling, and we saved $7.30 from the cans and bottles that we collected. That's 146 cans and bottles just in 2 weeks. And I thought that maybe that them becoming advocates at the school was where it had stopped, but it hadn't. A parent told me at parent-teacher conferences that her son John has been so on top of them about recycling. They're in the car and he says, no, someone threw out recycling. We need to go pick it up. And one of my other students has written letters to other schools in Hartford, and we've received letters back. And finally, with habits and mindsets, my students have fully internalized this. Just the other day, my student was spraying water all over the other students, and after repeatedly asking her to stop, I lost my cool, and I threw out the water bottle, and my students looked at me in shock, and I was so embarrassed. But my student Selena said, Ms. Foster, I think you need to stand up, take 3 deep breaths, and go do a yoga pose. And in that moment, I realized I was not the teacher. My 6-year-old student was leading and guiding me. And so now, after I reflect on my 2 years at Johns Hopkins and my almost 2 years teaching, and this year teaching my 6-year-olds, I now have a response in my head of what I will think when someone asks me, you're a teacher, you're 23, you teach 6-year-olds, what do? You probably tie shoes and read books. Instead of letting those frustrations get to me, I know instead I'm going to think, yes, I'm 23. Yes, I teach 6-year-olds, but no, we don't just tie shoes and read books all day. I believe in my students in becoming transformational leaders. I luckily had a few people believe in me last year, and I believe in them. We're a team. I teach and learn from them. They teach and learn from me. And together, we are on a path to becoming transformational leaders at our school, ASA, and beyond.